You know, I've never really liked weight training, and I haven't done it in years. That sucks. I don't like that. You know, I've never really liked weight training. Haven't done it in years. I did some in my younger years, but I probably haven't weight trained in over 10 years. And today I'm going to give you some reasons why you should consider building some muscle on your body, and why I am focusing on it now, as much as I hate it.
Muscle is the sink for glucose. It is a key factor in preventing insulin resistance, not to mention strength, staying upright, not falling down, causing a fracture.
I only recently started focusing on the health of my body, and more importantly, the health of my brain over the last 6 months. For the last 10 years, and I'm 61 by the way, I have pretty much neglected my physical health. Didn't have that great of a diet, and it showed a lot. And I put on a little over 30 pounds, about 35 pounds during that 10-year period, and just it wasn't feeling good. I don't know, maybe you know somebody like that, older, let their health go, put on some weight. I don't know, maybe it describes you, but that's where I was. And of course, I've become aware that I have a much higher probability of coming down with a case of Alzheimer's when I get old, because it runs in my family. So I decided I was going to start to do something about this.
It talks to the muscle. But in the case of bone, osteocalcin, if we just stick with that protein, it talks to the whole body. When your osteoblasts, the bone building cells in your bones, release osteocalcin, it goes to your brain and has a neuroprotective effect by decreasing inflammation. It goes to your brain and causes the synthesis of neurons in the hippocampus.
So I've been heavily focused on my diet, and based upon the research that I've done and the dozens of health-related videos that I've watched, I chose a low glycemic diet, also known as a low-carb diet, keto diet, for several reasons. One, it's very effective at helping you lose weight. Two, it helps keep your appetite at bay. It lowers your appetite a great deal. I don't like being hungry. And three, the ketogenic diet is very good for your brain. And while I'm not going to dive into the nitty-gritty details of the ketogenic diet, I wanted to talk about something that I realized that I wasn't doing, that I should have been doing in this video. And that is to start building muscle. Now, a lot of people think weightlifting is for men, and a lot of people think that type of exercise is designed to help you lose weight, and it can. And a lot of people weightlift because they want to look a certain way, but that's not why I want to do it. And there's much more important reason to do it. You see, now that I'm 61, I had my first DEXA scan, and I have osteopenia. That is the beginning stage of osteoporosis. My mother has osteoporosis. And if you build muscle and you don't have osteoporosis, you have to not gotten that far, you can reverse osteopenia. And that's what I'm going to attempt to do. That's one of the reasons. You see, I really don't want to break my hip. I don't want to be frail. I don't want to have to rely on other people to help me get out of a chair because I'm weak and frail. And the other reason I need to build muscle is for my brain. You heard me right. For my brain.
Link between Alzheimer's and bone health. Is there a link?
That goes back to what we were talking about before, and there's a correlation. I don't believe we've worked out the causation, but there's a correlation. We see people with Alzheimer's and people with dangerous osteoporosis are sometimes the same group 30% of the time. People with brain disease also have osteoporosis. And it may be due to this connection that we've talked about between the two organ systems.
So, besides the fact that muscle will protect my bones and keep me from breaking my hip and dying, watching a world-renowned orthopedic doctor lay out the very scientific reasons how muscle and bone can also be instrumental in protecting my brain from inflammation got me thinking.
You had an aunt that passed away from Alzheimer's.
I do. My Aunt Ida, she was brilliant. She was a teacher, and she stopped remembering. She didn't remember herself. She didn't remember the farm that we were all raised on. That's a really hard thing to witness. Sometimes people with Alzheimer's lose the inhibition and they become angry and enraged and afraid. She never did that. But that's a hard thing to witness.
How did that experience change you, or change your focus, or add to the sort of what reservoir of thoughts, concerns, reference points in your life?
Well, you know what it has done? It has put an urgency, and even it still is a day-to-day battle. I think sometimes people think, for me personally, that because I talk about these things all the time and I do lift heavy and I live the life I prescribe for people, that it's easy, and it's not easy. You know, I told you I had finished this book I was writing, and there was a big gap in the consistency of this lifestyle. But what motivates me to get back is the question of, what would it be like to live without a brain that's preserved? I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I think about, if I was aging and I had to choose one, would I choose an able body or an able brain? Isn't that hard? I don't know that you do have to choose, but I can't fathom what life would be like without an able brain. And so for me, that motivates me to lift.
I mean, who'd have known that by lifting weights and making your muscles grow, that chemicals between the bone and the muscle would be released and then go to your brain and cause an anti-inflammatory effect. Your body is amazing, isn't it? Now, I know this isn't going to be easy, because the ladies, myself included, we lose estrogen as time goes on. Especially after menopause, you lose like a substantial amount of estrogen. And my muscles have shrunk a great deal. So it's going to take a lot for me to build muscle back. Not sure I can build 100% of it back, but I can get some of it back. And that is what I am going to attempt to do. Men too also lose muscle as they age, but not as much as women. But men can get Alzheimer's as well. So keeping your bones and muscles healthy and strong is imperative as we get older. And a lot of us become frail and haven't thought about it or didn't know about it. And if you're young watching this, this is something you need to really, really take into consideration. You need to start exercising and lifting weights early in life, because it will pay off when you get older. You have muscle memory. It needs to be something you focus on all the time, because it is what will ensure your longevity.
1 in 2 women will have an osteoporotic fracture in her lifetime. So it's either me or your partner, or me or your assistant, right? 1 in 2 will have an osteoporotic fracture. Women have 70% of all hip fractures. Hip fractures are one of the main contributors to ending up in a nursing home because you can no longer walk and take care of yourself, right? 70% are women. If you break your hip, 50% of the time, whether you're a man or a woman, you will not return to pre-fall function. You cannot go live in that house where you raised your children. You may not be able to drive and go be totally independent, right? And 30% of the time, it's a huge number. 30% of the time, you will die.
So a lot of people will label weight training as some type of vanity exercise. It's much more than that. So the name of the game is to start building muscle. It'll help you live longer. It will protect your brain. It'll protect you from getting a fracture. And having muscle will also give you agility. I mean, quick on your feet. Dog runs under your feet, fall down, break your hip, you could catch yourself. You ever try to lift up a 30-pound toddler and keep him on your hip for a while? Been there. It's tough. So you need to have some muscle to handle all of that as you get older. So obviously, weight training is nothing to just jump into. You gotta make sure you're able to do it. Might want to talk to your doctor if you're older. And my suggestion is that you start light and slow. Nothing happens overnight. And while a lot of trainers will tell you that lightweight, lots of repetition, that is for toning. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about heavier weights and less reps to actually build muscle. And while doing all those exercises, and you gotta do them all the time, you need to put weights probably at least 3 days a week into your routine. You're gonna also need to make sure that you get the proper nutrients in order to help you build muscle. 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight. So if you weigh 140 pounds, you need 140 grams of protein daily. I've also started taking creatine. That is an interesting supplement. And it's not just for men, and it won't make you huge, anything like that, especially when you're at my age. But I watched a video on creatine and gave me several reasons why you should take it. Energy, building muscle, but it's also supposed to help with skin texture. So I'm gonna do a little experiment. I'm gonna take it for the next 60 days. Maybe I'll make a video on it, and you should stay tuned for it. See if I see an improvement. It's supposed to plump up the wrinkles. And there's no shortage of them right here. So if you got anything out of this, if you learned something, make sure to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button while you're at it, because I'd love to see you here again. It's just a little food for thought about the many reasons why you should consider taking care of your body and building a little muscle as you age, because you might have to pick up that 30-pound toddler. Now, make a comment below. Let me know if you've done any weight training. If not now, or when you were young, because I'd like to know. And come back and see me.